Shadowkiss, Chapter 9. With so many Morai tracing their roots back to Eastern Europe, Orthodox Christianity was the dominant religion on campus. Other religions were presented too, and I could say, all in all, only about half of the student body attended any sort of service regularly. Lisa was one such student. She went to church every Sunday because she believed. Christian also attended. He did it because she went and because it made him look good and seems less likely to become Strigoi. Since Strigoi could not enter holy ground, regular church service provided a small font of respectability for him. When I was not sleeping in, I showed up at church for the social aspects. Lisa and my friends usually hung out and did something fun afterwards. So church made for a good meeting spot. If God minded me using his chapel as a way to further my social life, he had not let me know. Either that or he was biding his time before punishing me. When the service ended that Sunday, however, I had to stick around the chapel because that was where my community service was going to happen. When the place had cleared out, I was surprised to see one other person had lingered with me. Jimmy, what are you doing here? I asked. Thought you might need some help. I hear the priest wants to do a lot of house cleaning. Yeah, but you're not the one being punished here, and this is your day off. Everyone else spends the whole week battling it out, but you guys were the ones picking the fights the whole time. In fact, I noticed how Drummond had a couple buddies too, though not nearly as many as Stan had. It had been a long week for everyone, and it was only the first of six. What else could I do today? I could think of 100 other things, I noted dryly. There is probably a John Wayne movie on somewhere that we have not seen. He shook his head. No, there is not. I have seen them all. Look, the princess is waiting for us. I turned around. Sure enough, Father Andrew stood at the front, watching us expectantly. He could taken off the rich robes he could worn during the service, and now stood in simple slacks and a button-down shirt. He looked like he was ready to walk too, and I wonder whatever happened to Sunday being a day of rest. As Jimmy and I approached to get our assignments, I pondered what could have actually made Remit stay here in the first place. Surely he had not really wanted to work on his day off. I was not used to puzzles with him. His intentions were usually straightforward, and I had to assume there was a simple explanation now. It just was not clear yet. Thank you for both for volunteering to help him. Father Andrew smiled at us. I tried not to scoff off the volunteering reference. He was as Morai in his late 40s. With thinning grey hair, he, even without much faith in religion, I still liked and respected him. We are not doing anything particularly complex today, he continued. It is a bit boring, really. We will have to do our regular cleaning, of course, and then I could like to sort the box of old supplies I have sitting up at the attic. We are happy to do whatever you need, Jemmet said solemnly. I repressed a sign and tried not to think of all the other things I could be doing. We set to it. I was put on mob duty, and Jemmet took over dusting and polishing the wooden piers. He appeared thoughtful and intent as he cleaned, looking like he actually took pride in his work. I was still trying to figure out why he was here at all. Don't get me wrong, I was happy to have him. His presence made me feel better, and of course, I always loved watching him. I thought maybe he was there to get more information out of me about what had happened that day with Satan, Christian, and Bradan. Or maybe he wanted to chassis to me about the other day with Stan, where I could been accused of jumping into a battle with for selfish reason. These seemed like likely explanation, yet he never said a word. Even when the princess stepped out of the sanitary to go to his office, Drummond continued to work quietly. I could have figured if he had anything to say, he could have done it then. When we finished the cleaning, Father Andrew had his whole box After a box of stuff down the attic and into the storeroom at the back of the chapel, Lisa and Christian frequently used that attic as a secret gateway, and I wonder if having it cleaner could be a pro or a con for the romantic interludes. Maybe they could abandon it and I could start getting some sleep. With all the stuff downstairs, the three of us settled on the floor and began sorting it all out. Father Andrew gave us instructions on what to save and what to throw out, and it was a relief to be off of my feet and for a change this week. He made small talk as we worked, asking me about classes and other things. It was not so bad, and as we worked, a thought came to me. I had done a good job convincing myself that Manson had been a delusion brought on my lack of sleep, but getting assurance from an authority figure that ghosts were not real could go a long way towards making me feel better. Hey, I said to Father Andrew, do you believe in ghosts? I mean, is there any mention of them in I gestured around us in this stuff? The question clearly surprised him, but he don't appear to take offense at me calling his vocational and life work this stuff, or at the fact that I was obviously ignorant about it all, despite 17 years of setting through services. A bemused expression crossed his face, and he passed in his work. Well, it depends on how we define ghosts, I suppose. I tapped a theology book with my finger. The whole point of this is that when you die, you go to heaven or hell. That makes ghosts just cherries, right? They're not in the Bible or anything. Again, he said, it depends on your definition. Our faith has always held the after death. The spirits separates from the body and may indeed linger in this world. What? A dusty bowl I was holding dropped out of my hand. Fortunately, it was wood and didn't break. I quickly retrieved it. That was not the answer I had been expecting. For how long? Forever? No, no, of course not. That files in the face of the resurrection and salvation, which from the crossturn of your beliefs, but it is believed that soul can stay on the earth for 30 to 40 days after death. It eventually receives a temporary judgment that send it on from this world to heaven or hell, although no one will truly experience either until the actual judgment day, when the soul and the body are returned to live out eternity as one. The salvation stuff was lost on me. The 30 to 40 days was what caught my attention. I completely forget about my sorting. Yeah, but it is true or not? Are spirits really walking the earth for 40 days after death? Ah, Rose. Those who have to ask if faith is true or opening up a discussion they may not be ready for. I had a feeling he was right. I signed and turned back to the books in front of me. But he said kindly, if it helps you, some of these ideas parallel flukes beliefs from Eastern Europe about ghosts that existed before the spread of Christianity. Those traditions have long upheld the idea of spirits staying around for a short time after death, particularly if the person is questioned, died young, or violently. I froze. Whatever progress I have made in convincing myself Manson had been bought by on my stress instantly vanished, young or violently. Why? I asked in a small voice. Why could they stay? It is for revenge? I'm sure there are some who believe that, just as some believe it is because the soul has trouble finding peace after something so unsettling. What do you believe? I asked. He smiled. I believe the soul separates from the body, just as our fathers teach us. But I doubt the souls on earth is anything that living can preserve. It is not like in the movies, with ghosts hunting buildings or coming to visit those they know. I envision these spirits as more of an energy existing around us, something beyond our prediction as they wait to move on and find peace. Ultimately, what matters is that what happens beyond this earth when we attain eternal life. Our Savior bought for us with His great sacrifice. That is what's important. I wondered if Father Andrew could be so quick to say that if he had seen what I could see, young or violently, both had appealed to Manson and he had died less than 40 days ago. That sad face came back to me, and I wonder what it had meant, revenge, or could he truly not find peace? And how did Father Andrew theology and about heaven and hell fit with someone like me, who had died and came back to life? Victor Doshwak had said, I have gone to the world of the dead and returned when Lisa had healed me. What world of the dead? Was that heaven or hell? Or was it other way of referring to its this in between state on earth the Father Andrew was talking about? I don't say anything after that because the idea of a revenge seeking manson was so startling. Father Andrew sensed the change in me, but he obviously don't know what had brought it about. He tried to coax me out. I just got some new books in from a friend in another parish. Interesting stories about Strain Valdemar. He titled his hit. Are you still interested in him? And Anna? Theoretically, I was until we could meet Adrian. We could only know of other two spirit users. One was our former teacher, Miss Crabb, who could have gone completely nuts from the spirits and become a strigoi to stop the madness. The other person was Stein Valdemar, the school's namesake. He could lived centuries ago and had brought his guardian Anna back from the dead, just as Lisa had me. It had made Anna Shadowkiss and created a bond between them two. Normally, Lisa and I tried to get our hands on everything we could about Anna and Valda in order to learn more about ourselves, but as incredible as it was for me to admit, I had bigger problems right now than the ever present and ever puzzling psycho link between Lisa and me. It had just been trampled by a ghost. Who could possibly be pissed off over my role in this ultimately death? Yeah, I said enviously, not making eye contact. I'm interested, but I don't think I can get to it anytime soon. I'm kind of busy with all this, field experience stuff. I felt silent again. He took the hint and let me work on without any further interruption. Drummond never said a word throughout any of this. When we finally finished sorting, Father Andrew told us we had done more tasks before our work was done. He pointed to some boxes that we could organize and repacked. I need you to carry these over to the elementary campus, he said. Leave them off to the Morai Dorum there. Miss Davis has been teaching Sunday school for some of the kindergartens and might be able to use this. I could take at least 2 trips between Rumit and me, and the elementary campus was a fair distance away. Still, that put me one step closer to freedom. Why are you interested in ghost shows? Drummond asked me on our first trip. Just making conversation. I said, I cannot see your face right now, but I have a feeling you're lying again. Geez, everyone thinks the worst of me lately. Stan accused me of glory seeking. I heard about that, said Drummond as we rounded a corner. The building of the elementary campus loomed up in front of us. That might have been a little unfair for him. A little, huh? Hearing him admit that thrilled me, but I don't change my anger against Stan. The dark, blurry feeling that had plagued me lately sprang to life. Well, thanks. I'm starting to lose faith in this field experience, sometimes in the whole academic. You don't mean that. I don't know. The school just seems so caught up in the rules and policies that I don't have anything to do with the real life. I saw what was out there. Commandee. I went right to the monster's lair. In some ways, I don't know if this really prepares us. I expected him to argue, but to my surprise, he said, sometimes I argue. I nearly stumbled as we stepped inside one of those two Morai rooms on the elementary campus. The lobby looked a lot like the ones on the secondary campus. Really? I asked. Really? He said, a small smile on his face. I mean, I don't agree to the non-voice should be put in the world when they are 10 or anything. But sometimes I have thought the field experience should actually be in the field. I probably learned more in my first year as a guardian than I did in all my years of training. Well, many or not at all. But it is a different situation, absolutely. We exchanged looks, pleased over our agreement. Something warm fluttered up in me, putting the lid of my earlier anger. Drummond understood my frustration with the system, but then Drummond understood me. He glanced around, but there was no one at the desk. A few students in these early teens were working or talking in the lobby. Oh, I said, shifting the weight of the box I held. We are in the middle school door room. The younger kids are the next door. Yes, but Miss Davis lives in this building. Let me try to find her and see where she wants these. He set his box down carefully. I'll be right back. I watched him go and set my own box down. Leaning against a wall, I glanced around, nearly jumped when I saw a Morai girl only a couple feet away. She could be standing so perfectly still. I had not noticed her. She looked like she could be mid teens, 13 or 14, but she was tall, much taller than me. The slimness of her Moriah build made her look even taller. Her hair was a cloud of brown curls, and she had freckles, rare among normal pale Moroi, across her face. Her eyes widened when she saw me looking at her. Oh my god, you are Rose Hathaway, or not you? Yeah, I said with surprise. Do you know me? Everyone knows you. I mean, everyone heard about you. You're the one who ran away and then you came back and killed those three guys. That is so cool. Do you get Monja marks? Her words came out in one long string. She hardly take a breath. Yeah, I have to. Thinking about the teeny tattoos on the back of my neck made my skin itch. Her pale green eyes, if possible, grew wider. Oh my god, wow. I usually grow irritated when people made me big deal about the Munchna. After all, the circumstance had not been cool, but this young girl was young and there was something appealing about her. What is your name? I asked. Jillian, Jill, I mean just Jill, not both. Jillian was my full name. Jill, whatever you calls me. Right, I said, hiding a smile. I figured it out. I heard Mora used magic on the trip to fight. Is that true? I could love to do that if I wish someone could teach me. I use air. Do you think I could fight Strigoi with that? Everyone says I'm crazy. For centuries, Mora using magic to fight had been viewed as a sin. Everyone believed it should be used peacefully. Recently, some had started to question that, particularly after Christian had proven useful in the Spokane escape. I don't know, I said. You could talk to Christian Ozira. She gasped. Could he talk to me? If you bring up the fighting the establishment, yeah, he will talk to you. Okay, cool. Was that Guardian black? She asked, switching subjects abruptly. Yeah, I swore. I thought she might faint then and there. Really? He is even cuter than I heard. He is your teacher, right? Like your own personal teacher? Yeah, I wondered where he was. Talking to Jill was exhausting. Wow, you guys don't even act like a teacher and student. You seems like friends. Do you hang out when you're not training? Yeah, well, kind of sometimes. I remembered my earlier thoughts about how I was one of the few people Remit was socialized with outsider of his guardian duties. I knew it. I could not even imagine that I could be freaking out all the time around him. I could never get anything done, but you're so cool about it all. Kind of like, yeah, I'm with the totally hot guy, but whatever, it does not matter. I laughed in spite of myself. I think you're giving me more credit than I deserve. No way, and I don't believe any of the stories. Stories? Yeah, about you beating up Christian Azira? Thanks. I said, now rumors of humiliating were trickling down to the lower campus. If I talked over to the elementary dorms, some 6 years old could probably tell me she could hear that I killed Christian. Jill's expression turned momentarily uncertain, but I don't know about the other story. What the other story? About how you and Adrian Ashwork or no, I interrupted, not wanting to hear the rest. Whatever you heard, it is not true. But it was really romantic. Then it is definitely not true. Her face fell and then she perked back up a few seconds later. Hey, can you teach me to punch someone? Oh, wait, what? Why could you want to know that? Well, I figured if I'm going to fight with magic someday, I should learn to fight the regular way too. I'm probably not the right person to ask. I told her, maybe you should ask your PE teacher? I did. Her face looked distorted, and he said no. I could not help but laugh. I was joking about asking him. Come on, it could help me fight a Strigoi someday. My laughter dried up. No, it really could not. She bit her lip, still despite to convince me. Well, it could at least help against the psycho. What? What cycle? People keep getting beat up around here. Last week it was Dan Zillox, and just the other day it was Brett. Dan? I ran through my knowledge of Moroi genealogy. There was a zillions Zillox students around. That is Jess' younger brother, yeah? Jill nodded, yeah. One of our teachers was so mad too, but then could not say a word, neither could Brett. Brett? Who? Azira. I did a double take. Azira? I had the impression she was really excited to tell me things I don't know. He is my friend, Ali's boyfriend. He was all bruised up yesterday and had some weird things that looked like welts to maybe burns. But he was not as bad as Jen, and when Mistress Culhern asked him about it, but convinced her it was nothing, and she let it go, which was weird. He was also in really good mood, which was also weird, since you kind of think getting beat up could bring up down. Somewhere in the back of my mind, her words tickled a memory. There was some connection I should be making, but I could not quite grasp it. Between Victor Ghosters and the field experience, I was honestly a wonder I could string words together anymore. So, can you teach me so that I won't get beat up? Jill asked, clearly hoping she convinced me. She balled her fist up. Just do this, right? Thumbs across the fingers and swing. Well, it is little more complicated than that. You need to stand a certain way or you will hurt yourself more than the other person. There is a lot of things you need to do with your elbows and hips. Show me, please, she begged. I bet you're really good. I was really good, but corrupting minors was one offense I don't yet have on my record, and I prefer to keep it that way. Fortunately, Drummond came back just then with Miss Davids. Hey, I told him, I have someone who wants to meet you. Drummond, this is Jill. Jill, Drummond. He looked surprised, but he smiled and shook her hand. She turned bright red and became speechless of a change. Soon as he released her hand, she stamped out a goodbye and ran off. We finished up with Miss Davids and headed back towards the chapel for our second load. Jill knew who I was. I told Drummond as we walked. She had kind of hero worship thing for going on. Does that surprise you? He asked. That younger students could look up to you? I don't know. I just never thought about it. I don't think I'm good of a role model. I disagree. You're outgoing, dedicated, and excel at everything you do. You have earned more respect than you think. I gave him a sidelong glance, and yet not enough to go to Victor's chair, apparently. Not this again. Yes, this again. Why don't you get how major this is? Victor's huge threat. I know he is. And if he get loses, he will just start in on his crazy plans again. It is really unlikely he will get loose. Most of these rumors about the queen letting him off are just that rumors. You, of all people, should know not to believe anything about here. I started stonily ahead, refusing to acknowledge his point. You should still let us go, or I took a deep breath. You should at least let Lisa go. It was harder for me to say those words than it should have been, but it was something I could been thinking about. I don't think I was a glory seeker like Stan had said, but there was a part of me that always wanted to be the one in the middle of a fight. I wanted to rush forward, doing what was right and helping others. Likewise, I wanted to be there at Victor's trail. I wanted to look him in the eyes and make sure he was punished. But as time went on, it seems less likely that could happen. They really were not going to let us go. Maybe, though, maybe they could let one of us go. And if it should be anyone, it should be Lisa. She could be the target of Victor's plan, and though her going alone stirred up that nervous idea about how maybe she don't need me to guard her, I could still rather take the chance and see him put away. Dreamt understanding my need to rush in and take action, seems surprised by my unusual behavior. You're right. She should be there, but again, it is nothing I can do anything about. You keep thinking I can control this, but I cannot. But did you do everything you could? I thought back to Adrin's words in the dream about that Dreamt could have done more. You have a lot of influences. There must be something, anything. Not as much as influence as you think. I have got a higher position there at the academics, but in the rest of the Guardian world, I am still pretty young. And yes, I did actually speak up for you. Maybe you should have spoken up louder. I could sense him shutting down. He could discuss most things reasonably, but could not encourage me when I was just being a bitch. So I tried to be more reasonable. Victor's knows about us. I said he could say something. Victor's has bigger things to worry about with this trail than us. Yeah, but you know him. He does not exactly act like a normal person could. If he feels like he has lost all hope of getting off, he might decide to burst us just as for the sake of revenge. I could never been able to confess my relationship with Dreamer to Lisa, yet our worst enemy knew about it. It was weirder even than Adrian knowing. Victor had figured it out by watching us and gathering data. I guess when you're scheming villain, you get good at the stuff. He could never make the knowledge public though. Instead, he could use it against us with the less charm he could make from the earth magic. A charm like that could not work if there was not already attraction in place. The champ just cranked things up. Trimmet and I had been all over each other and had only a heartbeat away from having sex. It had been a pretty smart way for Victor to distract us without using violence. If anyone had tried to attack us, we could have put up good fight, but turn us loose on each other, we had trouble fighting that. Dreamt was silent for several moments. I knew he knew I had a point. Then, well, have to deal with the best we can, he said at last. But if Victor going to tell, he is going to do it whether or not you testify. I refused to say anything else until we both got to the church. When we did, Father Andrew told us after going over some more things, he could decide that he really only needed one more box bought over to Miss Javits. I will do it, I told Drummond crisply once the priest was out of the earshot. You don't have to come. Joes, please don't make a big deal about this. It is a big deal, I hissed, and you don't seem to get it. I do get it. Do you really think I want to see Victor lose? Do you think I want us all at risk again? It was the first time in a long time I could see him lose control on the verge of snapping. But I told you I have done all I can do. I'm not like you. I cannot keep making a scene when things don't go my way. I don't do. You're doing it right now. He was right. Some part of me knew I crossed a line, but just like with everything else recently, I could not stop talking. Why did you even help me today? I demanded. Why are you here? Was that so strange? He asked. He almost looked hurt. Yes, I mean, are you going to try to spy on me? Figure out why I messed up? Make sure I don't get into any troubles? He studied me, brushed hair out of his eyes. Why does there have to be some ulterior motive? I wanted to blurt out 100 different things, like if there was not a motive, then that meant he just wanted to spend time with me, and that made no sense because we both know we were only supposed to have a teacher student relationship. He, of all people, should know that. He was the one who told me. Because everyone has motives. Yes, but not always the motives you think. He pushed open the door. I will see you later. I watched him go, my feelings a tangle of confusion and anger. If the situation has not been so strange, I could have almost said it was like we could just gone on a date.